What's going on, y'all? I'm Czar, and in this video I want to give you my review of the API Select T25 Tube Compressor. So this has been a weird year. The Capitol building got attacked, we're still dealing with the pandemic, Jeff Bezos went to space, and now API is making tube gear. Seems right for 2021 to me. So this is a 2-channel FET compressor with a tube output and of course API transformers. Let's take a closer look. So we're looking at the left side of the T25 here, channel 1, and looking at the controls, this feels very similar to an 1176. We have an attack with 20 microseconds to 0.8 milliseconds, a release from 50 milliseconds to 1.2 seconds, ratios of 2 to 1, 4 to 1, 8 to 1, and 20 to 1, and your input and output control. And all of these knobs are detented or stepped. Push buttons along the front here, we have DS, which is going to give the high frequency a bump in the compression detection sidechain. Thrust, which if you're familiar with API compressors, this is a patented API feature that's like a tilt EQ that goes in the compressor sidechain so it doesn't react as much to low frequencies but reacts more towards high frequencies. This is going to bring the compression in, and bypass is going to be a hardwire bypass. So with it out and you're not bypassed, you're running through the compressor to get the tone from the tubes and transformers, and then if you bypass it, you are not. All right, let's get into some examples. So we're going to use the T25 here to process a lead synth. So I've got this synth in this track that I made, and right now, let's go ahead and bypass it for now. So I'm going to let the synth play, and then I will unbypass it, bringing in the T25.
My man Czar make tracks like this.
So you can hear the T25 is really making that synth sound thicker and bigger and bringing it more forward in the mix as well. So let's put some drums through the T25 here. With the gain staging of an FET compressor, you're going to hear a level difference when I bypass this versus when it's in. But I've got an 8-to-1 ratio here, and I've got it stereo linked. And I'm going to start with it bypass, and then I will bring it in. And let's put some drums through the T25. With the gain staging of an FET compressor, you are going to hear some level difference when I bypass this versus with the compression in. But we're at an 8-to-1 ratio right now. We're going to start with it bypassed, and then I'll bring in the T25. And I am using this stereo linked right now. And when you use this stereo linked, you do have to set both sides to the same settings so it will compress the same. So you can hear when I'm bringing in the thrust, we're getting more low end, and that's because the thrust helps the compressor not to react so much to the low frequency. So it is opening up and giving more punch using that thrust button there. Let's go through the ratio on these drums now. All right, let's move on to another example. All right, so we're going to check out the T25 on some vocals here, and I've got the T25 bypassed. I want you to hear this vocal without any compression first so you can get an idea of how dynamic it is, and therefore you can compare it to what the T25 is doing. So this is the vocal without any compression.
He back production, he got Warriors gun boot, he got no cyborg, he want spinal cracker, he got feet down below his knee, yeah. Hold you in his armchair, you can't feel his disease. Come together right now over me.
So for this vocal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dial it in as the vocal is playing. The other examples, I've preset the compressor before playing the example. So this way you can hear what it sounds like dialing it in and get an idea of how quickly you can dial it in as well. So right now I've got the attack and release set as fast as it can go, and we're on a 2-to-1 ratio.
He back production, he got Warriors gun boot, he got no cyborg, he want spinal cracker, he got feet down below his knee, yeah. Hold you in his armchair, you can't feel his disease. Come together right now over me.
All right, I like that. So we got a 4-to-1 ratio. I think I went 1 click up on the attack and 2 up on the release. Now let's use this DS button and hear what that sounds like. And remember, this is adding high frequency to the compression sidechain, so it's going to compress the high frequencies first.
He back production, he got Warriors gun boot, he got no cyborg, he want spinal cracker, he got feet down below his knee, yeah. Hold you in his armchair, you can't feel his disease. Come together right now over me.
All right, so we're definitely getting a lot more compression with the button in. I'm going to bring it in and out now to hear the difference.
He back production, he got Warriors gun boot, he got no cyborg, he want spinal cracker, he got feet down below his knee, yeah. Hold you in his armchair, you can't feel his disease. Come together right now over me.
All right, definitely getting more compression with that DS in, and I can hear the vocal open up more on the top end with it out, so it is pushing down, or getting to those high frequencies first. And speaking of the DS button, you can run DS and thrust together at the same time. It hasn't sounded good when I've done it, but if you want to do that, go for it. Okay, so final thoughts on the T25. I won't lie, when I first got this, I didn't like it at first, and that's because I was trying to use it as an 1176, And then I had to like really realize that it's its own thing. Yes, it has controls that's similar to an 1176, but I feel like the knee is different on here, and it might be the knee, but just it definitely feels different from an 1176, and I feel like it's more versatile than 1176 as well, especially with the way that it compresses, which I do feel is the knee. But with an 1176, when I'm compressing, let's say vocals for an example, I'm always compressing, meaning that the whole time the vocal is going, the compressor is going. What I found with the T25 is that I can set it to handle just the peaks, which is something I feel like I can't really do with an 1176. And let's get an example of that. So by compressing just the peaks, and what I mean by that, let's turn this input down. I can set this to where a lot of the vocal is under the threshold, and then when it hits that threshold, then it starts compressing. So I'm not compressing the whole time, just when we're hearing the peaks. Let's see if I can dial that in really quickly.
He back protection, he got Warris gun boot, he got no cyborg, he want spinal cracker, he got feet down below his knee, yeah. Hold you in his armchair, you can't feel his disease. Come together right now over me.
So you can see how most of that vocal was under the threshold, and I'm able to set the T25 to react that way to where it catches just the peaks and doesn't compress the whole vocal. So I really like that, which makes it more versatile than 1176 to me. Things I would like to see different on here. The attack and release, I wish it had I don't know what you want to call this, the extension on the buttons here, the points, because then I could clearly see where that attack and release time is set. There is a groove on the knob, which is where it is set at, but from like sitting back where I am now, I have no idea where this attack and release is set to. So, if I have it set and then, I don't know, come back to mix the next day, I'm not going to know where these positions are, but that's one thing I would like to see different. And I haven't seen this on any API compressors that I think of, but a wet and dry knob would be nice to have on here as well, especially for dealing with something like drums. But the T25 has certainly handled everything I've thrown at it so far: piano, vocals, bass, drums, synths. Very versatile, and where I feel that, I don't call the 1176 a one-trick pony, but I definitely feel that for me, for what I generally use an 1176 for, I feel like I can do more with the T25. And another cool thing about it as well is that I am able to, if we take off the end, now I'm running just through the tubes and transformers here. So I've messed with that a little bit, running it through some mixes just to hear the color and tone from this, and it does thicken up nicely, and it gives you what you would expect from a tube piece of gear. All right, overall, I'm really excited about this, and I'm really digging what I'm hearing from it since I've been using it. Definitely going to keep it, and it's definitely going to go in my workflow, especially having 2 channels as well is something that I've wanted a 2-channel FET compressor for a while, but there really isn't any 2-channel FETs out there that I really like. The only I can think of off the top of my head, the Day King, and which I contemplated, and the UK Sound has a 2-channel FET compressor, but that one has no markings on it for the attack and release, and it's completely variable, so it's going to be a pain in the ass to recall. So that was immediately, a deal breaker for me. But there is my review of the API Select T25. This is one of the first products out of this new API Select brand, and I'll have a link in the description if you want to learn more and check this out. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content from me, then you know what to do. Any questions, comments, let me know, and I'll catch y'all next time. I want to invite you to check out my podcast, the Faders Up Podcast, where we discuss pro audio and beyond. We discuss everything from recording to gear to the music business. So if you're an audio engineer, songwriter, recording artist, music producer, this podcast is for you. We recently started season 2, and we're going to have a lot of listener questions on this season, as well as some really cool guests that's lined up and giveaways as well. So if you've already subscribed and followed the podcast, thank you. If you haven't, it's available on all platforms, and I encourage you to check it out. Also, rate it and review it and let us know what you think.